All right, so this is the second half of 8-7. So yesterday we just kind of tipped our toe in 8-7 where we talked about identifying the slope and the intercept from an equation. And yesterday we did the little bit of algebra. Like here, we moved the 4x and we moved the 4x, right? We do the same thing to both sides of the equation. And we got negative y equals negative 4x plus 6. And then when you divide everything by a negative, you end up with y equals 4x minus 6. And then from there, you can identify the slope, right, as being the number right in front of the x. So for here, the slope would be 4. And you identify the b as the tail end number, or the y equals mx plus b, or that number at the end. Okay, why that's going to come in handy is because today we're actually going to kind of jump a little bit into actually graphing linear equations from slope-intercept form. As long as you are good at pulling out the m and the b, graphing these is going to be super simple. Okay, and I'll show you a little memory trick to help. So off to the side, or at the top of your paper here, I want you to write the equation again. Okay, y equals mx plus b. And there's a reason. There's a little memory trick I use on what order you have to go in to graph these. And we know that the m is the slope, right? This is review. We know that the m is the slope, and we know that the b is the y-intercept. Okay, that's review from yesterday. Here's the little memory trick that I use, okay? The order that you go about graphing these is B stands for begin. That is where you begin your graphing. You always begin with plotting your y-intercept, and then you use your M to move. So M stands for move and B stands for begin, okay? If you will do it in this order every single time, graphing in y equals mx plus b becomes extremely easy, okay? And I'll show you why. So let's look at this first example, and I will give you a chance to just write slope equals 3/4. And remember, use your shorthand. You guys know it. M equals slope and B is y-intercept. So if you want to use shorthand in your notes, go for it. M equals 3/4 and B equals -3. So in this case, for number 4 here, they're giving us the y-intercept and they're giving us the slope. All right, so remember I said that B stands for begin. So that means I'm going to begin by plotting -3 as my y-intercept. Now, what does y-intercept mean? If you look at your graph, this is your y-axis, right? That means right on that axis at -3, so 1, 2, 3, I'm going to begin by plotting my first point. So you begin with your B, and then you use your M to move. Well, what does the 3/4 mean? 3/4 means that I go up 3, right? I rise 3 and I run 4 from my beginning point. So I put my pencil on my beginning point and I go up 1, 2, 3, and I run 1, 2, 3, 4. And where I land is my second point. And that's how you graph linear equations in y equals mx plus b. The last step is always just to draw your line. So if I was to, which I would like you to do this in your notes, if I was to give myself kind of a written out step by step, it's really not bad, okay? Step 1, you begin with your B, right? Step 1, you begin with your B. Step 2, you move with your M. And then step 3 is you just connect the dots. I'll say points because it's technically points. I want to get mathy. You just draw your line. That's it. That is how you begin with your B, you move with your M, and then you connect the points with a straight line. Okay? All right. So am I okay to move off of that? Here, let me leave that up there for a second. Am I good? Okay. All right. So let's do, and you don't, as long as you have one example in your notes, I'll just do this one really fast. You don't even have to actually put it in your notes, but I just want to do a few. All right. So step one, begin with my B. So right on the y-axis. Now I do want to point out something here. Look at how each box is numbered. You got to watch it. If it's numbered different, notice each, it's 2, 4, 6, 8, right? So you just kind of have to watch that. So my 1, and again, as a reminder, this is your y-axis. So right on my y-axis, the y-intercept is just a fancy name for the point that sits right on the y-axis. Okay, that's what the y-intercept means. So right at 1, I'm going to put a point. Whoops, let's do that in pen. I'm going to put a point at 1, right? I'm going to begin with my y-intercept or my B. And now I'm going to move, I'm going to use my slope, which is right here, and I'm going to go up 5 and over 6, right? I'm going to rise 5, I'm going to run 6. That's what 5 over 6 means. Now, if I'm at 1 right here, and I'm just going to put that that's a 1 because I remember that. If I rise 5, what should I land on? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I rise 5? Okay. And you can put little tick marks on your graph. That as long as your points are big enough that I know that those are your actual points, you can put little tick marks to help you count. So I rose 5. Now I have to run 6. Now be careful because I want to show you something here. I've got 2, 4, 6, right? So I'm not going to actually go 6 blocks. I'm only going to go 3 blocks because that's how this particular graph is numbered. So I move 2, 4, 6. And so you can see how my point is way bigger than all my little ticks of how I'm counting. And as long as your points are big enough that I know those are your actual points, you can leave your little tick marks on there. It won't bother me a bit. Okay. Last step, connect the 2 points with a straight line. Arrows on both ends because lines go on and on forever. Okay. All right, again, I'm going to do one more. You don't have to put this in your notes unless you just want to. I just like to do a few examples where you can just kind of watch. All right, step 1 is begin with my B. So I begin by going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my B, right? That's my beginning point. Then I use my M to move. Now, remember I said you have to have a fraction. You have to have a rise over run. How would I write this as a fraction? 1 over 1. Every whole number really is over run. So that means I rise 1 and I run 1, right? So if I put my pencil on my beginning point and I rise 1, run 1, it's right there. Could I do it again? Sure. Rise 1, run 1. You can do it forever. Okay. Rise 1, over 1, up 1, over 1. Now I run out of graph here. Now, what if, let's just say, what if my graph cut off right here? And I did not have any of this, right? This is just a make-believe. I can't rise 1, say that 10 times fast. I can't rise 1, run 1 because I don't have graph space. So this is where it's important that you understand the concept. If I have -1 over -1, is that the same as +1? Yes. Are we good that 2 negatives make a positive? So -1 over -1 is the same as 1 over 1 because 2 negatives make a positive. So could I fall 1 and go backwards 1 and end up on the same line? If I fall 1 and go backwards 1, does that look like it ends up on the same line? Well, let's erase my make-believe cutoff here. And let's plot rise 1, run 1, rise 1, run 1, rise 1, run 1. Fall 1, backwards 1, fall 1, backwards 1. Is it on the same line? Is it all part of the same slope? It is. So if you ever run out of graph space to rise and run, just know that you can fall and go backwards and it still keeps you on that uphill incline. And again, how many points do you have to graph a straight line? 2. How many points can you put? I don't care. I could do fall, run. See how I got off? Because I didn't have, so my black line really isn't perfect. Am I going to care? Am I going to count you off? Do you need to put 15 lines across or 15 points across your graph? No. As far as I'm concerned, do 2 points and then use a ruler. I mean, seriously, there's unless you just want to put a couple more points there for your own sanity to know that you're tracking on the same track, you don't have to put a bunch, okay? 2 works. 2's all you need. And there's our line, okay? All right, now I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to do an example like number 7. How are we doing on time? Okay, we got about 5 minutes. So actually I'm going to skip and do number 7 is the one I want. I'm sorry. Number 7. So now notice we're not given an m and a b. We're given an equation in y equals mx plus b. Can we still find our m and b? Very, very easy. Okay, and this is, I want you to do this on every problem. Out to the side, I want you to write m equals, and then state your m. What's our m here? Don't forget the negative. -1/2. And our b is, good, -4. Don't forget your negative. Good. All right, so now we still do it the exact same way, right? We begin with our b, which is -4. So that means I begin by placing a point right on the y-axis at -4, right there. And then my m tells me how to move, right? And my m tells me that I'm going to fall 1, which is right here, fall 1, run 2, which puts me right there. Now, do I have another option besides fall 1, run +2? Could I rise 1 and run backwards 2? As long as one of my moves is negative, does that look like it lines up on the same line? Could I rise 1 again and run again 2? As long as I'm doing it with the right, with at least one negative move, I'm staying on the same line. And now I can connect my points. Now, do you need 4? Nope. You could have stopped at 2 and that's fine. I just usually put a couple extras on there to keep my line straight. Because once you figure out your slope, it's easy to just keep adding points until you run out of room, okay? All right, but it's really important to notice that -1/2 is the same as 1/2. So I can either rise and then run this way, or I can fall and then run backward. But either way, I have a negative move somewhere in my slope. All right. Okay. This one, you don't even have to write it down in your notes necessarily, but I do want to point something out. Remember I said state your M and state your B. All right. This one gets tricky here. What's my M? The M is always the number attached to the X. We don't have one here. Yeah. If it's not there, it's there. It's a 1. So my M, and would I write 1 or 1/1? Because I want to rise and a run. My B here is what? -4. Yep, don't forget your negative. All right, so once again, I'm going to begin by plotting my B. So on my y-axis, I'm going to go down 4 spots. There's my B. And my slope is rise 1, run 1. And I can do it a couple more times to give myself a few points to make sure my line is straight. Okay, rise 1, run 1, rise 1, run 1. I could even fall 1 and go backwards 1. And I'm still on the same line because 2 negatives make a positive. But in the end, there's my line. And then again, I'm just going to really fast do this because we're running out of time. My M here is -6 over what? I need a rise over run, so make sure you stick it over 1. And my B is 3. Okay, so I'm going to 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put a point. I'm going to fall 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to run 1. There's my second point. Draw a straight line. And there's my graphing. Graphing these gets really, really quick once you figure out, begin with your B, move with your M. All right. On the back side of your homework, I've already told you this, but just as a reminder, on the back side, there's only 9 problems and they are all this fast. It should take you about 5 minutes to do your homework. So all 9 of them are due, okay? Email me or come see me later today if you have any questions. For those of you at home, shoot me an email if you need help. I can open up a meeting and help you one-on-one or answer you through email.